Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneurs Roundtable. Today, I'd like to highlight the place I call home, San Antonio, Texas. It's a place that more than any place else that I've ever lived is really about relationships. And getting things done in business here is really important to have the right relationships. And I've had owners ask me, who are your buyers? Who are your investors? Who do you work with? And I thought it would be really cool to invite one of those individuals here to get to know you a little bit better and for you to get him or to get to know him a little bit better. And so to that end, we're joined by Robert Aguirre, founder and principal of Bellator Trust, really aimed at finding the right business to buy here in San Antonio. What I found to be cool is that, we've got talent and capital coming here to San Antonio. And what we really want to explore is, what does that mean for our future here? And what does that mean for the business environment moving forward? So with that, I would like to turn it over to Robert to tell us more about who he is, what brought him to San Antonio, and what he's up to.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. And hello, everyone out there. Thanks very much for inviting me to connect and chat with the overall community, Jason. I'd be remiss I'd be remiss if I didn't give credit to my wife. And this is a bit of a homecoming, and San Antonio is my adopted home, but very much embraced it. She grew up here. Loved it. I spent quite a bit of time here in San Antonio, as well as other places like Austin. And now with us growing our family this past year, made the decision that it was time to come home. And we're just so excited for it because there's so much energy in the business community, in the technology community as well. And people are realizing, particularly in 2020, that when you could work from anywhere, and now the way business is done, you have the ability to choose where to live. I think more and more talent is going to come back home to San Antonio, and that's a good thing for the entire business community overall. And so I'm excited to be here and tell a little bit about my story and what I'm trying to accomplish here with your audience.
Excellent. Yeah. Share with us a little bit more about Bellator Trust and what it is and what you're looking for. I think that would be really great for our listeners to learn more about.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, fundamentally, I'm an entrepreneur with about 15 years of experience, primarily from the technology sector. I'm backed by a group of investors, of professional investors who are all former CEOs and operators that have done well operating and growing companies in the lower middle market. Let's say companies that do anywhere between, say, $3 million in revenue to $50 million in revenue, cash flow positive, have been around for many years, sometimes decades, and more importantly, have owners that care very deeply about their business. But those owners are also starting to think about what's next for them, right? But they want to know that whoever might come in to run their business after them will take care of their employees, the customers, and contribute to the community that that business is a part of. And so that really resonated with me as I thought about what my entrepreneurial journey would look like after my career in technology. And so I aligned myself with these investors, and they're essentially have committed capital to me today to go out and spend my time connecting with those business owners, telling a little bit about my story and trying to understand if there's a fit between our alignments. Fundamentally, what I'm trying to accomplish is to find a high quality business with an owner that cares very deeply about it, but also is eager to go and pursue other things that they're passionate about in their life, whether that be spending more time with family, traveling the world, and just generally enjoying the fruits of their labor, while also giving them the peace of mind that somebody relatively young with a lot of energy and with with a professional set of experiences and tools is going to come in and really not just preserve the legacy that they built, but continue to grow that legacy. That's fundamentally why my investors are excited to back me, and how I position myself to any prospective business owner as they think about uh, why should they sell, who should they sell to, and how do they sell.
Right. And so we've had others on the show as well, similar type of a model. And Robert, I give you kudos because there's two things that you point out. One is you've made your job a lot harder. And this is why I say we are happy to have you here in San Antonio, because focusing to find a business in that type of geographical constraint makes your job a lot harder. And so I'd like for you to talk a little bit about how you kind of thought through the trade-offs and landed on that being the decision you were going to make. And then the other piece I'd like for you to talk about, and it resonated with me, and we've talked about it before, is this concept of legacy, which I think fits in really nicely with San Antonio, and the fact that the owners likely aren't going anywhere, and we're all part of this community. We all want to see businesses and individuals in the community be successful, and that really, really resonated with me. So you're also not just purely financially motivated, right? Where you're going to come in, run the business, extract all the value, and run off into the sunset. You're bringing yourself into our community, and you're looking at how you can create value, not only for the owner, that's the business, and also for yourself and your family. But I wanted to have your thoughts on kind of how you landed on, okay, I'm gonna focus in here, and I'm gonna take on that challenge, and then also more around kind of just what's led you to this point where you recognize the value of community, and the importance that plays of relationships with employees, with between owner and seller, between different people in the ecosystem. Curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, great question. So I'll take a great multi-part question. I'll take the first one. The decision to come here. For me, I'm not in this to, while I have a fiduciary responsibility, given that I've got professional investors, that's always going to be the case. But I'm personally not doing this as a get-rich-quick scheme. This is not it. The reason I'm pursuing entrepreneurship, in particular this flavor of entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship through acquisition, is what's colloquially known as, it is because my calling, my vocation, if you will, I've known since very early in my career, even in my upbringing, that I wanted to be a people leader and be the kind of person that can set a vision, inspire a group of people to work towards that vision, and also hopefully inspire them to make the world a better place through the world of business. I believe in the nobility of leadership and management, and what better place to do that than in a place like San Antonio that already it has such a strong ingrained culture of around family, around relationships, as you started the beginning of our call, of loyalty, right? And I believe fundamentally that if you're doing this for the right reasons, because you are passionate about leading a business and leading a group of people, if you treat people the right way, they're going to perform really well, and it's going to be a win-win for everyone. And so as I sort of looked across different places in the country, it was just a no-brainer, because all the ingredients are here in San Antonio. I think it just takes people like you, Jason Brown, and like me and others, to bring those ingredients and become the glue for it and create something better than what was here before. And we've seen it happen before in the technology sector and other business groups, but it just needs more and more momentum. And so fundamentally, that's my wife and I, aside from it being home and being a no-brainer for us to start our family here, and become a part of the community, we felt that we could also continue to pursue our professional vocation here really, really well with the ingredients that were already present here. And so that is really what influenced us to come over. A side note, I'm personally from Southern California, grew up there almost my entire life. Half my career was spent in Northern California and Silicon Valley, given my background in technology. And so while that there's certainly um, virtues to those places, everyone is sort of over indexing on those things. And so from an entrepreneurial perspective, and I think the entrepreneurs in your audience will appreciate this, opportunities are simply opportunities because not everyone is seeing them. Right. And so I don't think that everyone had the privilege to get to know a place like San Antonio the way I did, primarily because of again, I'd be remiss if I didn't give her credit. She's probably going to listen into this. My wife, who grew up in San Antonio, and I had that unique perspective and saw that. And I understand, and I feel sorry for those that haven't yet, but part of my edict is to bring those resources and that know-how here to really, really grow and create that hub that I think people are increasingly becoming aware of. And so I'm excited to do that. As far as so hopefully that answers the question there.
Absolutely.
And your follow-up question, remind me.
So that was really, you're not purely profit driven, right? It's the legacy element. It's you now plugging in and continuing that legacy that another owner has laid the foundation of. And so that to me was another unique value that you bring to the table as a buyer. You're not strictly profit driven. And I think you touched on some of that, but if you wanted to elaborate any on that legacy, to me, right, there's a bit of the future of San Antonio that we envision as leadership is crucial. It's crucial in all segments and sectors in order for our city to continue to grow and continue to prosper. And so just wanted to get your thoughts on legacy and what that means to you and how that's played into your decision to come to San Antonio.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that reminder. I take the legacy aspect of this personal because while I've personally never been the single entrepreneur out there, I did grow up in a family of entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. My parents my parents came to this country and had two boys and had to do whatever they needed to do to put food on the table. And so for them, that meant entrepreneurialism. And so I grew up digging trenches in my father's construction company, bagging and tagging retail plumbing hardware, like you name it, I did it. And so that's, they built that in the hopes that they could provide for their family. And so I understand all of that work that happens. They fought every day for every sale and every dollar that came into those businesses. It's actually why I named my firm, my entity, Bellator Trust. It essentially alludes to a group of warriors, because I do believe that business owners are out there fighting for every win, right? And so I believe that entrepreneurs need to stick together, and I want to be able to connect with other entrepreneurs in that way, but then take it a step beyond that and really be respectful of the decades of work that they put in. Many business owners, what I hear from business owners is, hey, I built this thing. Some were reluctant entrepreneurs, others built it, and they just wanted to build a good living for themselves. And all of a sudden that business took off to a level that they weren't expecting, and they're very happy for it. And they've always had in their mind, gosh, but this business can, be so much bigger than what it is, but do I have the time, energy, know-how? In Spanish, we say ganas, necessarily to do all that extra work at the trade-off of other things in their life. And many business owners reach sort of a point where they're sort of happy, they've got enough, right? They've got enough, but they've always got this sort of scratching at the back of their mind. But gosh, this company, if I did X, Y, Z, if I just put in more hours or hire the right people or raise some additional investment, I could go, I could take over the state of Texas. I could go national. I could go international. They've got this big vision. And what I ultimately end up finding is most business owners that do have that have had it clawing at the back of their head for years.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what I want to be able to come in and do, right? I'm at a point in my life and in my career where I've got this sort of sweet spot of youthful exuberance with just enough experience and some capital and backers behind me that are not just capital and don't just bring dollars to the table. That's a commodity, to be completely honest. What these folks bring to the table is the direct experience running businesses just like the kinds that you and I spend our day talking to every day, and helping inject the right know-how, hire the right people, allocate the capital in a strategic way in order to allow that business to reach new heights. And so these folks take a pretty active approach. They form a professional board of directors. We really professionalize the company, but the most important thing is we're there to build upon the legacy that has already been created. And so the kind of businesses that I'm looking at are the kinds of businesses that have been successful with their current set of employees for a good reason. And ultimately, I want to come in after learning that business and that industry really well, and ultimately build upon that base and create new opportunities within the company for the current set of employees. And what I found is most employees and most owners understand and appreciate that because they want the best thing for their people. Because they, again, the kinds of owners that I'm looking to connect with primarily are those folks that are super passionate and care very deeply about their business, their employees, the customers that they serve, and the communities that their business affects.
And I appreciate you saying that, Robert, because one of the things that I want to encourage our business owners to do is to really think through this process in advance, and having them understand beyond what the proverbial buyer is, the actual person behind it, and thinking through that in advance of needing to sell the business, and being intentional around, here is the type of person who I see leading the business in the future, which again, I think is just a really critical relationship and thought process to go through, because many owners, their identity is tied into the business, and it is important not only what they're able to yield on the sale of a business, but to know that their quote unquote baby and the family members in terms of employees who are there are in good hands. And so part of this conversation, as I'm hoping, is planting the seeds within owners' minds around, here is an individual, a real life person who might be the right candidate to continue to move my business forward. And whether or not it's exactly Robert, it's somebody who has the same principles as Robert, somebody who brings the same level of integrity to this endeavor. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't get from you some of what you tactically bring to the table in terms of skills and the value you think you bring to the business to be able to help it be successful in the future.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that. And that's sort of an additional lens that I use when I connect with business owners. I'm happy to say more about that. But I will say, this is such a relational type thing, and you're exactly spot on, Jason, where, this is somebody's baby. They've been living in this, it's however many real kids they've got, and then this ends up being that last kid, right? And it's a big decision. And so I'd encourage, your audience of business owners that are out there, that even if they're not ready to sell today, to get a hold of you or folks like you, trusted advisors like you, that can help walk them through that process and ultimately connect them to real people like me to start. It's kind of like a dating process. I know many owners out there have probably not been in it for a while, per se, but it is very much a process, and is very personal. And so many of the business owners I've connected with, I've got months, in some cases, in a few cases, almost a year plus of time in dialogue with these kind of folks, getting to know each other, how we think, etc. So you don't want to be in a position where you now have to sell, and you have to sell quickly, and you don't have the benefit of having sort of a short list of people that you think could be really high potential folks. In cases like mine, I do have a limited time frame to connect, right? So I will be transparent about that. I need to find a business as soon as possible, because buyers like me are really not portfolio investors. We're not buying your company and sort of directly operating them from afar. I'm essentially shuttering my entity and ultimately joining the senior leadership team of that meeting, and living in that business every day. So that's what's a little bit different for my buyer profile, but certainly there are others out there as well that I know, Jason, well about. But to that end, as I look at businesses that might make sense and could be a mutual fit, I always think about what can I bring to the table that this business needs because it has none of, or needs more of. And fundamentally, my core skill set is around sales and marketing, particularly B2B sales and marketing, given my experience, as well as engineering. So by way of background, I spent half my career in sales and marketing in the electric vehicle industry, starting with Tesla Motors and another earlier stage startup called Proterra. They make and sell battery electric buses. I was head of commercial sales there, where I was responsible for starting and running the business at the commercial business at both of those, the B2B commercial business there, ultimately growing it to about $40 million in top line revenue. And so lots of experience in sort of that B2B enterprise sales type of experience. Before that, I was an aerospace engineer at the Boeing company, ultimately finishing my career there, leading a small team of engineers building and launching spacecraft. And so, what I bring to the table from a outside of just a leadership perspective of people, functional expertise is really building stuff, leading teams that build stuff, selling and marketing stuff, and leading teams that sell and market stuff. And so I always love it when I come across business owners that have very little or no sales and marketing efforts. Typically, we'll find that the business owner themselves is the sales and marketing department, and they sell based on relationships, and that's great. And if you've been able to build a business on that, but most owners also recognize that they should build a formal sales and marketing function. That's the kind of value add that I can bring outside of just trying to be a great people leader and a great motivator of talent, finder and motivator of talent.
Maybe the reason we get along so well is because we're both recovering engineers who work in aerospace. And I don't know if you even know that, I did some work on commercialization of hybrid electric technologies on commercial vehicles like city buses and garbage trucks.
That's amazing. Yeah, well, we're gonna have to do a part 2.
Absolutely. And so, and that's part of what it's important, I think, for people to understand too, is where we can play. And I enjoy helping owners that are in technical businesses, where we're looking at value and how can you create value and help unlock value. And Robert, it's amazing to see you here in San Antonio. We started this conversation when you were still back in the Bay. and to have you here with us is a true treat. And I'm excited to see what business ends up in the fortunate position of being able to leverage your talent, and then what that means in terms of the broader opportunities and success for our city. So it takes, you know, one relationship, one call, one sale. It starts, you know, with each of us individually continuing to move the needle forward to help make our city that much better. Is there any final piece of advice that you would leave with our listeners out there in San Antonio land?
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. Well, you know, free advice is worth what you pay for. Uh, but you know, I think just planning ahead of time and being open to connecting and just learning when you're approached about this, right? And learning what makes a qualified buyer versus somebody that's just kicking tires, I think is really important if I was in the shoes of a business owner. And really understanding that the potential suitor's intentions with that business. You know, there's no shortage. There's no shortage of different flavors out there that are catered to different end goals. But I would say, given what I know of a place like San Antonio, people here really care about what they built and making sure that what they built continues to live in perpetuity. And so thinking very strategically about what kind of buyer will take a business like that, be able to give you the liquidity that, say, a large investment firm might be able to provide you, but while also giving you something that I would argue is just as important, the peace of mind to know that your business is in good hands and going to continue to exist, and more importantly, continue to grow. That it's not going to be, say, parted out or kept for pieces, but continue to operate and grown. And the only way that you could really do that is by having a conversation with people. Be it folks like you, Jason, could be a great first stop, because you could connect to those business owners, to people like me, to willing sellers that you've done the work to vet out and hear directly from, right? And so I'm always happy for anybody out there that wants to have a conversation. Please, I hope that they reach out to you, Jason, and that you could put us in touch. And even if they're not ready to sell, I'm always happy to have a conversation, regardless of where somebody is in their journey to potentially exit their business.
Absolutely. Really appreciate that. And feel free to reach out to myself. My number is 847-334-8803. Happy to get you in contact with Robert, or just take a look at where you are as a business owner in the journey, and connect you with anyone in my network that can be helpful in allowing you and enabling you to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. I 100% agree with you, Robert. It's about planning. It's about not getting caught flat-footed when things happen in life. When a pandemic hits, when there's, God forbid, a death in the family, or life presents challenges that you then have to change direction or change plans. You have to plan. A plan needs to be in place to deal with those situations. So really excited that you were able to spend some time with us this afternoon. Great to get to know you. I'm sure we'll continue this conversation. I'm glad that our audience, the business owners around San Antonio, have had an opportunity to get to know you a little bit. And I have a suspicion that you'll be back at some point in the future, if nothing else, to share the success story with how you found the right business in San Antonio to buy.
I would love that. I would love that.
Appreciate the time, and we'll talk soon.
Look forward to it. Thanks all.
Thank you.